When the lights are about to be turned off, you know what you need. Because you gotta somehow make that paper, right?
Right. Show me the money!
You come to the right place for that. Because it's time for Bo Bounds to
Show me the money!
show you the...
Oh, show me the money. Bar 2's Bangers. Brought to you by the crazy man himself out of Oregon. Oregon Duck alum. Dave Bartu on the Out of Bounds Show. Brought to you by Stella Artois. Amazing beer. And also experience the action at BetMGM Book Bar and Grill. Only at the Beau Rivage on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. And the Beau Rivage's MGM Book Bar and Grill and the South's premier Vegas-style sportsbook is the place to be for the college football playoffs and pro football. We welcome in Bar 2 on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Morning, Sunshine.
Hey, go Ducks, baby. Who thought at this time of the year that we'd be having a conversation where only one team from our mutual states would be in the playoffs? Oh!
Let me quote Bartu, a Shakespearean tragedy, as Ole Miss did everything right except lose to the Kentucky Wildcats, who finished 4-8 and 1-7 in the conference with their lone win in Oxford. I would have lost a lot of damn money, Bartu, before the season if you would have bet me on that.
Me too. I mean, if I'd have told you, look, this year Alabama has to beat Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Tennessee. One of the three to make the playoffs. You take that bet?
Yes.
Right? Ole Miss has to be Kentucky at home, Florida on the road, and then what? LSU?
Yes.
One of three, and they're in. You and I would have lost everything.
Lot of money. Oh my gosh.
Everything. We would have shoved all our chips in. Seriously.
It's it's what you and I talk about, and you always say you got to play the games.
Yeah, and see, and this is why everybody seems to really be riding on Greg Sankey, who's talking about the playoffs and ADs in the SEC, and I'm like, why would he do anything different? I mean, the schedules, arguably the four easiest, at least the three easiest schedules in the SEC were given to Tennessee, Texas, and Ole Miss, right? 2 out of 3 of them got in.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia and Alabama had tougher ones. Georgia made his way in.
Sure.
But, I mean, if Vanderbilt doesn't beat Alabama and Ole Miss takes care of business, are we talking 5 SEC teams?
Yes.
We're talking one play. South Carolina doesn't get jobbed by its own dang officials in the conference, and they're probably in. So we're talking 3 plays away from having a conversation about having 6 teams in. It was just bad luck. Why would you change that? You certainly can't change the narrative that, we're going to make our schedules easier. Your average non-conference team you played in 64 SEC non-conference games, the average recruiter was a number 96 recruiter. You played the equivalent of 64 MAC games, right? I know there were some good ones in there, Michigan and Clemson and this, that, and the other. But on average, and I'm using
MSU had to play dilly-dilly. They had to play Arizona State.
Right. So it is, you can't change the non-conference schedule. It's already the easiest one out there for you. How are you going to make it easier? You got to change the non-conference schedule, and we're talking about going to nine games. You can't add 2 top 10 recruiters, have a conference with 16 teams, and half of them are half the top 20 recruiters in the country. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You took the money, right? Mm-hmm. You made a huge conference with massive talent. Now you can't have the easy games so everybody has great win-loss records. Doesn't work that way.
Bartoo's Bangers on the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by Stella Artois. All right, Bartoo, I need to go over a couple of things, and then we'll get into some other college football. But Purdue fired Ryan Walters. That's a tough job. Joe Tiller and Brom have won there. Maybe Odom can do it. But will you give me a grade on Ryan Walters as a defensive coordinator, Bartoo?
Oh, he's an excellent defensive coordinator. When he left Illinois, he was hired actually by Drinkowitz at Missouri, and then Brett Bielema took him away from Eli, and Illinois had a run of excellent, top 10 level defenses for a couple of years with Ryan, and so it was pretty understandable when Purdue wanted to take a risk on him, simply because he appeared to have the pedigree of a guy who could roll out a really good defense. That didn't happen at Purdue. I think maybe it shows you how bloody good Jeff Brom is. Mm-hmm. But so Purdue is and has to be probably one of the 5 toughest jobs to win games. Maybe not 5 top pressure cookers, but in terms of just the ability to win a football game, it's probably the only one's probably tougher is Stanford. And whoever coaches Stanford is screwed. That's just going to be the worst Power 4 team forever now. It's a tough gig, but back to Ryan Walters as a defensive coordinator, excellent defensive coordinator in a variety of environments, because he worked with Barry Looney, I believe, in Barry's first year at Illinois, very high paced, not something that Bielema likes, but yeah, Walters he's a free agent right now. So I'm honestly surprised he hasn't been picked up somewhere, and maybe he'll get Paul Chryst, right? Where Texas brings him in as a veteran analyst, pays him a good chunk of money, and he can hang out there till Paul finds a new job. Because Paul will, at some point, take a head coach job he wants or take an offensive coordinator job he wants. And maybe Ryan ends up in a kind of a quote-unquote rehab place for a year or two. But he has an excellent skill set as a very young, still, defensive coordinator.
Bartoo on the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by Stella Artois. Ryan Walters, what'd you say? He's a 4.5-star defensive coordinator?
Yeah, 4.5-star defensive coordinator. Now, if he was calling the plays at Purdue, I'd have to check with our data team. So if he was calling the plays at Purdue,
but still, he's proven he can call plays, and he's a good coach.
How about this? His ceiling is extraordinarily high.
Ooh, I love that.
His floor has been dropped because he was hot garbage at Purdue. All right. So but we have a guy. I remember talking to an ACC head coach one time. This was really we'd been talking for like 45 minutes, and he's like, "Okay, Dave, I got to sleep on this. I have this ceiling and I have this floor, and when I wake up in the morning, I have to be able to accept getting the floor in exchange for the risk of the ceiling." I said, "That's exactly right, Coach. That's exactly right." And so, and he woke up in the morning, he said, "I can accept the risk of the ceiling with the risk of the floor." And so I think that's what we're talking about with Ryan Walters. Anybody who brings him in, the floor is kind of scary right now, but the ceiling is elite.
Bartoo's Bangers on the Out of Bounds Show. Bartoo, Mike Shula is now the offensive coordinator for Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Rate that hire for us.
Oh, okay. You want some inside information before I rate the hire?
Yes.
I know you do. Because, see, I was looking at this going, okay, defensive opponent adjusted offense, top 30 in the country, South Carolina. Top 30 defense opponent adjusted offense. Dow low games? Get out of here, man. We're talking about a guy who is bottom 10 in all offensive coordinator scoring efficiency in the NFL this century. This century, bottom 10, right? And last year, the offense wasn't good. So in my mind, I'm going, oh, man, this Sellers kid is dynamite. He's elevating this offensive coordinator. But you know who was the quarterback whisperer the entire season for Sellers? In the NFL, with more than 3 years of experience. I don't know if he's elite or not, but I think South Carolina upgraded at the OC position by bringing Mike on keeping him on board and replacing Dow with Mike Shula.
All right. Bartoo's Bangers. Dave Bartoo on the Out of Bounds Show.
Can we make fun of Michigan? Come on, let me make fun of Michigan, man.
Did they hire Chip Lindsey? Who did they hire?
Dude, Dude, we have 1,192 offensive coordinators in our grading system, and Chip is 678th, baby.
Oh, my.
Oh, God, it's not even the best part, man. The best part is I'm seeing tweets that their new 18-year-old expert at hiring offensive coordinators recruit signed off on Chip Lindsey to help develop him into an NFL quarterback. That's like crazy pills, man. Could you imagine? Could you imagine Lane or Jeff going, "Hey, 18-year-old quarterback, what do you think about this offensive coordinator to develop you into an NFL quarterback?" I mean, is that just bat-ass nuts or what? Oh, my God. And then on top of it, he ain't even above average.
Oh, you're Michigan.
Dude, and Michigan's losing, what, 9 players on defense?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You give me any Michigan total right now, and don't be a smart A, and give me 1.5. I will I bet you Michigan, good chance they're not even bowl eligible next year. How about that? That'd be great.
Oh, my gosh. So Chip Lindsey was hired by Michigan as the OC, and he ranked 678th out of basically 1,200 offensive coordinators that Bartu and Adam have ranked the last 15 years. Get you some of that, Big Blue. You know, you are a blue blood, but you're not acting like it. It's amazing how many schools do that.
We would have advised against that one, boss. We would have advised against that one.
All right.
And I can make fun. I don't work for him, so I'll make fun of him.
Let's see, what else do we have as far as
let's see
coaching
here.
movement?
The Gus Malzahn, Herb Hand to Florida State's interesting. I'm kind of curious about that. Gus isn't a top 25 OC. I mean, Florida State already has a top 10 OC. Mike Norvell's brilliant. I know he had a terrible, maybe the worst offense in college football this year, but his elite upside, talking about Ryan Walters, I mean, Mike Norvell's had had 3 or 4 years better than anything Gus has ever done. So I'm not sure about that one. I like the defensive coordinator move there. And then Herb Hand, average offensive line coach, but fits well with Gus. So I see that going hand in hand. But that hire I'm a bit confused on as well. I do like, speaking of your state hasn't had a lot of movement. How about getting a conference champion in Charles Huff from Marshall and bringing him into Southern Miss? That is a great move by Jeremy McClain. I think that's really fortuitous to have that fall in his lap, and I'm excited to work with Charles on trying to get things going down there.
All right, so Charles Huff is the new head football coach at Southern Miss, and they need to get to a bowl game, and he did a good job at Marshall and just won the Sun Belt, which Southern Miss is in. And now it surprises me because my thought process is Marshall's bigger and has more money, but Huff makes the move. Maybe it's proximity of players because it's just loaded area down here. And I know that when I visited with Huff, he likes the sunshine and warm weather, and I think the family does too. So there could be, several different things going on there. But Bartu likes that hire for who Southern Miss is. Exactly.
Who they are, what they're replacing, the opportunity there. I think that was a real good choice by Jeremy to bring in the veteran head coach.
North Carolina.
Dude, can I? Do we have some story time? I'm going to tell a story.
Yes.
Okay. About 20 years ago, there was a really good college football program that had a choice between the best G5 head coach and an NFL champion named Bill. And ironically, it was an NFL champion named Bill. And they decided that the group of 5, the number 1 group of 5 guy, wasn't good enough, and they were going to go with the NFL champion. And they did. And they brought in Bill Callahan and let Urban Meyer go to Florida. Urban wanted the Nebraska job. Nebraska went with Bill Callahan, the Super Bowl champion. And now here we have North Carolina, repeating history in my opinion, kind of doing the same thing. They're bringing in Super Bowl champion Bill, ironically, only. and they are letting the best G5 head coach, Summerall, at Tulane, not come to North Carolina. I don't know if it'll bite North Carolina in the butt the way it did Nebraska. That's pretty extreme. But if John Summerall not going to North Carolina lands him at LSU, if Brian Kelly doesn't make it after a year or two, or Michigan, if Sharon Moore doesn't make it after a year or two, man, I'm seeing so many parallels with what Nebraska did and what Nebraska passed on to what North Carolina is doing right now. I know it's years out, and we'll forget about this interview by then, but I'm just saying, mark my words, I think North Carolina is passing on the best group of 5 head coach, and somebody is going to land him, and I do believe, personally, John Summerall could be the next big thing coming out of the group of 5.
Ooh, and you had Brom and some others as the guys.
Yeah, Brom was at the top of the G5 list. Mike Norvell was at the top of the G5 list. But Summerall, when you look at his numbers, the one thing I specifically point at is turning a program around. Look what he did at Troy. He walked into Troy. Troy was dumpster fire, right? Absolute dumpster fire. First year, top 10 scoring efficiency defense in all of college football. First year, dude. He flips Troy. The next year, repeats it, leaves Troy. Troy immediately goes back to sucking. Instantly. And so he goes to Tulane. Now, obviously, he's coming in after Willie Fritz, but put up another awesome year at Tulane. They were as high as 17 this year. You know, this guy has put together 3 straight top 25 scoring efficiency defenses in a row in all of FBS, out of all places, Troy and Tulane. Man, I know things can change, but I have no problem betting on that guy right now.
Oh, all right. With Scott Frost, let's wrap it up real quick. Bartoo's Bangers on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by Stella Artois. We are ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Bartoo joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. You can watch this interview on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. So they're going back with their ex. Central Florida hires Scott Frost again.
Yeah, running it back. I guess I'll be curious what happens there. Look, it's the same thing isn't going to happen all over, right? We know that because when Scott was there, he was that period when he went 12-0 and everything. Guess who the number one? Guess who Georgia was of the AAC? It was UCF. They were the number one recruiter, right? They had the most talent. They were Boise State. They were Ohio State and Oregon, right? They were Georgia and Texas and Alabama. And so they had the number one talent. And I see the same thing like with West Virginia. There's a lot of people nostalgia for Rich Rod. Dude, Rich Rod, he was king of the Big East. He was the number one recruiter. West Virginia isn't that. Neither is UCF. So I get the safety of hiring Scott Frost because he left on a good note, and people are happy to have him come back. So for Terry, the athletic director at UCF, it's kind of a career no-brainer. But we'll see how it goes. I expect it to be somewhere between Nebraska, too much pressure, and peak UCF because that peak UCF's not walking back through the door, even if all the players and all the coaches walk back through the door. That's highly irreplicable for UCF. But I think a good choice, and I'm curious to see what happens if Scott can resurrect himself there.
I like it. We're going to leave it there. Bartoo's Bangers on the Out of Bounds show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Thanks, Bartoo. Appreciate it, dude.
Let's do some more coaching carousel soon, buddy.
Yes.
Going down.
Yes. Bartoo's Bangers on the Out of Bounds show. Show me the money. Brought to you by BetMGM, is the king of sportsbooks, and Beau Ravage's BetMGM Book Bar and Grill is the South's premier Vegas-style sportsbook. Experience the action at BetMGM Book Bar and Grill only at the Beau Rivage on the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast.